Hello, my name's Dawn and I'm filming this afternoon in my small urban garden, and I want to share with you a few ideas that you can do simply and easily to attract some more wildlife into our spaces. With a small urban garden, I decided to give a mini pond a go and found loads of information and inspiration in the Wildlife Trust and RHS publication Big or Small Ponds for All, and that was tied into their Wild About Ponds campaign, which started me thinking about installing the pond in the first place. I already had a metal bucket in the shed that I was going to use as a planter, and this seemed the perfect thing to use to start my mini pond. I found a spot where it wasn't too sunny, not too shady, and allowed it to fill up with rainwater. Once the bucket had started to fill with rainwater, I added an oxygenating plant and also a brick, following some advice I'd seen on Twitter. And at that point I had some doubts as to whether the bucket was going to work. Later on in the spring, I decided that the bucket really hadn't been completely successful. It was the wrong shape and the wrong size, and the position also wasn't correct, and I ended up with a bucket full of blanket weed, so it's time to start again. This time round I started with a shallower bowl, added some gravel and pebbles at the bottom, and popped in the hornwort as soon as the rainwater started to fill. Hornwort, that's an oxygenating plant that floats in the water, takes the sunlight and converts that into food for itself and oxygen for the water. You need well oxygenated water if you're going to attract lots of the invertebrates and things I'd like to end up in my small wildlife pond. I also added some water mint, which will provide further habitat, and the flowers provide food for some of the other insects and invertebrates that I may have visiting the garden, and this also helps to keep the water clean. And the snails appeared in summer 2019. Either they'd come in as eggs on the plants, or they may have been transferred by visiting birds. So, as you can see, just on that buff orange coloured stone at the bottom there, we've got one of our pond snails moving around, feeding off any microscopic algae. As well as the algae, the pond snails will be eating the living plants as well as decaying plant material that falls down to the bottom of the pond. And I've also recently seen a water hog louse which feeds on the same material. Now that I know the pond is in the right position in terms of sun and shade, I'm going to be digging it into the ground. This will protect the water from freezing when we do have a frost, and also hopefully make it easier for certain things to access the pond and enjoy it. So the hole's now dug and the pond has been placed in the hole. Not quite level though, so I'm going to need to do a little bit of work on making sure the sand underneath the bowl gives me a level surface, and then I can start putting everything back. Now the pond's in position and everything's back where it needs to be. I've got a little bit of maintenance to do because I can see some blanket weeds starting to appear. Don't want to remove too much of this at this point in the year because there'll be all kinds of things going on in the pond during the spring and early summer. Don't want this to take over. What I'm going to do is just leave it on the side here for anything that might be in there to be able to get back into the water if it needs to. And to finish up, I'm going to complete our pond life survey, part of our How Wild Are We citizen science tasks. So I have my plastic tubs, got my paper and pencil, and I've got the pond life survey form on the phone, all ready to go. I know I've got pond snails, and I'll be logging my water hog louse too. and then I'll be keeping an eye on the pond over the coming weeks and months, topping it up with rainwater over the summer, doing a bit of maintenance and enjoying all the wildlife that hopefully will now arrive in my garden.